What does Varys want? What drives him? He's one of the most mysterious characters in A Song of Ice and Fire, so let's take a look. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. On this channel we dive deep into George R. R. Martin's world of Ice and Fire, as well as The Lord of the Rings and The Witcher. If you're new here, welcome. This video was co-produced with the wonderful History of Westeros. Please do check out their podcast and channel. In Ned's last chapter in A Game of Thrones, Varys visits him in the Black Cells. Ned asks him the question that so many have wondered. Tell me, Lord Varys, who do you truly serve? Varys smiled thinly. Why, the realm, my good lord. However could you doubt that? I swear it by my lost manhood. I serve the realm, and the realm needs peace. Which sounds very noble, but Ned isn't alone in being unsure of Varys's true motivations. He professes complete loyalty in turn to 3 kings of the 7 kingdoms, despite not coming from Westeros, and is clearly plotting to place young Griff, Fagon, onto the throne. He has climbed to the highest council offices and wears rich silks and velvets, and yet his private room is frugal and he sleeps on a stone bed. He claims to be acting for the children, and yet cuts the tongues out of his army of child spies. It's all very contradictory. So, what do we know about his background? He was apparently born a slave in Lys, the implication being that he is the bastard-born child of one of the many sex workers there, from an unknown father and a probably now untraceable mother. This is, of course, entirely believable, but also conveniently vague. He claims then to have been apprenticed as a child to a mummers troupe in a travelling show, when in Myr a sorcerer offered Varys' owner a hefty sum to buy him. The man drugged him, inducing paralysis, but he felt everything. The sorcerer made him into a eunuch and burned the parts he removed in a brazier. The flames turned blue, and a demonic voice spoke in a language he didn't understand. Varys tells Tyrion it's not the pain he recalls most of all, but that voice. This is terrifying, but did it really happen? There are big questions. Why would Varys' master sell him if he was a useful and promising member of the troupe, and why would the sorcerer pay such a large sum of money for Varys in particular when there will surely have been plenty of other cheaper orphan boys to choose from? Might he be descended from royalty, perhaps? That would explain the high price. We know there is supposed to be power in a king's blood, and that of a king's descendants. Aerion Targaryen certainly spent several years in Lys, and George R. R. Martin has confirmed that he had bastard children there. Could Varys be a grandchild, say? Or how about the Blackfires? They were in Essos for a long time. A lot of people have theorised along those lines, and the fact we never find out Varys' hair colour only adds to the suspicion. And yet, we don't have any proof, hence even more mystery. Anyway, after that horrific day, Varys found himself tossed out into the gutter and committed himself to staying alive and working his way up in the world. He made money any way he could, became a proficient thief, and when he had moved to Pentos, struck up a partnership with a young Illyrio Mapatis. Illyrio was a bravo, a sword fighter, and the pair of them came to an arrangement. Varys would steal things from rich townspeople, and Illyrio would hire himself out to track down the thief and return the stolen goods. In time, the stolen goods more often became nuggets of information and secrets, which were often worth more in the right hands. Which brought him to the attention of Aerys, the Mad King, who wanted a spy master he knew was not secretly loyal to Tywin Lannister or anyone else in the 7 Kingdoms. Who better than a bastard-born Essosi crime lord? So that's the story we have. Varys moved to King's Landing, took up the mantle of Master of Whisperers, and retained the confidence of the Iron Throne despite a couple of changes of king. Varys is a mummer, a criminal, and now a spy master. 3 different careers with overlapping skill sets that each involve deception. So how much of this backstory can we therefore believe? Well, many of the most convincing lies often have some element of truth to them, and I'm inclined to think that a lot of what Varys told us is true. Certainly there's no reason to doubt that he was running a crime syndicate in Pentos, based on learning important people's secrets and growing rich from it. That's why the Mad King hired him in the first place. His strong ongoing partnership with Illyrio is similarly self-evident, and him spending some time in a mummers' troupe in his younger days also rings true. We see more than once quite how adept he is at disguises and changing his manner of speech. No, my instinct is that the biggest clues as to who Varys really is and what he wants lie in the things he hasn't told us. Why, for example, did he give up such a lucrative career in Pentos to work for such a dangerous and unstable employer as the Mad King? It wasn't for the money, or admiration for Eris, or even just power for its own sake. He moves seamlessly from serving Eris to serving the man who rebelled against Eris, when he could easily have escaped back to Pentos. He never seeks to rise any further to the hand of the king, say, or live a conspicuously indulgent life. He seems to want to just be in that position as Master of Whisperers. So, what does he want? Well, we twice catch him speaking about his plans when he has absolutely no reason to lie. The first is when Arya overhears him speaking with Illyrio underneath the Red Keep. Arya doesn't understand what she has heard, but we do. Varys explains to Illyrio the political situation at the time in Westeros, and Illyrio says that events are moving too quickly. They plan to have Khal Drogo's Khalasar invade Westeros, but that can't happen until Dany's child is born. They discuss timings for a bit. They clearly want the Seven Kingdoms to be ripe for invasion at the right time. The second time we catch Varys speaking in a more unguarded way is in the epilogue to A Dance with Dragons. He shoots Kevan Lannister with a crossbow, then monologues at him for a bit, saying this: "This pains me, my lord. You do not deserve to die alone on such a cold, dark night. There are many like you, good men in service to bad causes. But you were threatening to undo all the Queen's good work, to reconcile Highgarden and Casterly Rock, bind the faith to your little king, unite the Seven Kingdoms under Tommen's rule." So he killed him. He goes on, "Your niece will think the Tyrells had you murdered, mayhaps with the connivance of the imp. The Tyrells will suspect her. Someone somewhere will find a way to blame the Dornishmen. Doubt, division, and mistrust will eat the very ground beneath your boy king, whilst Aegon raises his banner above Storm's End, and the lords of the realm gather around him." And that, I think, answers the question of what Varys wants. The young man claiming to be Aegon VI, to sit on the Iron Throne and rule. Very broadly, Varys' part of that plan has been to ensure that the Seven Kingdoms is vulnerable to invasion. I'll do a video on Varys' master plan at some point soon, because it's well worth a deep dive into. But why does he want that? Perhaps this is, as he claims, just some noble ideal of putting a good ruler on the throne. He tells the dying Kevan that it was for the realm, for the children, and waxes lyrical about Fagon's good qualities, not just his education, but also his care for the small folk. But if so, why do it for the Seven Kingdoms? Why not Pentos or some other city in Essos that Illyrio and Varys both already know well, have influence in, and presumably care about? Why go over to Westeros at all? Which brings us back to those theories that perhaps Varys has something else in his history that he isn't telling us. In A Dance with Dragons, Illyrio tells Tyrion about his deceased lover and love, Serra, who he discovered at a brothel in Lys, just like Varys, who also came from Lys. Might there be a connection there? Could Varys and Serra perhaps be related? His sister, maybe? That would explain the close connection with Illyrio. And if young Fagon is Illyrio and Serra's son, and perhaps a secret Blackfire through the female line, that would explain why they chose the Seven Kingdoms. But all that is a lot of ifs. I'll do another video on who young Griff is. Actually, this is turning into a mini-series now. There's quite a rabbit hole here. But for now, we can say with some certainty that the connection between Varys and Illyrio is more than just business associates. They have been close for decades and trust each other completely. It seems that asking what motivates Varys is also about what motivates Illyrio. Which is not to say that they don't each have different tastes and priorities, they are just two different sides of the same agenda. So what about those inconsistencies? If Varys cares about the children, Why cut out their tongues? Let's go back to that conversation he has with Illyrio, who, it seems, supplies those children, little birds, for Varys. "I must have gold, and another 50 birds," says Varys. "So many?" The voices were fainter as the light dwindled ahead of Arya. "The ones you need are hard to find, so young to know their letters. Perhaps older, not die so easy? No, the younger are safer. Treat them gently. If they keep their tongues, the risk..." The voices fade at this point, but it's clear that though Varys does demand that his child spies do indeed get mutilated like this, he wants them to be treated gently. How does that add up? And how can he rationalise brutally murdering Kevin and Pycelle while talking about doing it for the realm, for the children, and trying to justify his choice as king by saying that Fagon knows that kingship is his duty, that a king must put his people first and live and rule for them? He didn't need to say those things. Kevin would be dead within minutes. We have to assume that he meant it. So what's going on? I think in his own way Varys does care about the small folk and wants the best for them. There is probably some kind of familial link, but he genuinely also thinks that Fagon ruling as king would improve the lives of so many people. But crucially, in his mind, that means that all the violence and the murders are worth it. In the long run, he thinks the end justifies the means. George R. R. Martin has created Varys as a deliberately mysterious character. He wants us to be guessing at his motivations, but I think it is slowly becoming clear that Varys wants the best for the people of Westeros, and as a part of that wants to put Fagon on the Iron Throne. But in order to do that, he has to do the very things and become the very kind of person that have been so terrible for Westeros for so long. He thinks that to bring peace and justice, he must first bring war and horrors. If you'd like to see more videos diving deep into the world of Ice and Fire, there's a playlist appearing now on the left of your screen. Or if you'd like to support this channel, thank you. There's a link to my Patreon page on the right of your screen. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.